All right, let's go now and bring in North Dakota Senator John Hoeven, member of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. It's always great to have you on the program. We appreciate you being here. I want to talk to you first about energy. I did ask David Bahnsen about it, but the biggest concern for Americans right now are kitchen table issues, economics of the grocery store and the gas pump. And President Trump is talking about greenlighting more drilling in this country to bring prices down, which ultimately, Senator, will then bring the cost of goods and services down, which is what people want to see. I think if you're voting on the economy, this is a top issue, and he's laying it out in black and white, plain English.
Oh, Jackie, that's right on. Thanks for inviting me to be with you. But it's all about increasing supply, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to increase the domestic supply of energy, and that is what, of course, brings the price down. More supply, meet the demand, prices go down. That's exactly what he did during his first term. So he's not just talking about it, he did it. He will do it again. We are one of the largest oil and gas producing states in this country. When he was in office, we were producing 1.5 million barrels a day of oil. We're down now to less than 1.2 million barrels. We could easily go back up if you could get the handcuffs off our energy producers, which the Biden administration has put in place. And that means taxation and regulation, and also preventing us from accessing federal lands for energy production. And that's true both onshore as well as for the states that drill offshore as well. So again, this is fundamental economics, which the Harris-Walz administration does not understand. They're about a government-run economy, not a market-based economy. Trump's not only going to do it, he's done it before. So it's not only that he's saying he's going to do it, he's done it before, he knows how to do it, and he'll do it again.
So, Senator, it sounds like the big key here is getting regulations off the books, getting the government out of the energy business. The second applause line in Trump's speech just now was when he talked about Elon Musk being the auditor of the federal government. Is that the kind of role that's going to help clear out some of the regulation and bureaucracy that's holding back our energy markets?
Yeah, there's no question the regulatory burden not only reduces supply and increases costs, but it's really hurting our domestic producers. And so we end up actually importing, whether it's energy or anything else. And I just was listening to your discussion about tariffs and all those kind of things. Well, wait a minute. We want free trade, but we want fair trade. And so if he's talking about making sure that he uses tariffs the right way so that we can grow our domestic market in manufacturing and other production of energy and goods and services, again, that's increasing the supply as well as growing our economy here, creating more jobs, bigger economy, lower tax rates, but you still have a growing revenue base. So you've got to look at all these things working together. And the fundamental reality is that what President Trump's talking about is lower taxes, less regulation, a growing economy, and then, as you referenced, good accountability, right? So he's talking about not only reducing inflation, closing the border, all these things, securing our cities, ending conflicts around the globe, all these things that are fundamentally important for us right now. But he's talking about creating a growing economy with accountability to get on top of the debt and deficit over time, and we need to do that.
Senator, to your point, he talks about being a net regulator reduction in terms of all those regulations. For every regulation he added, he said that he cut 5.5 regulations to overall get that reduction. I want to switch, though, and talk about the Harris campaign, because she isn't coming out and saying whether that she is or is not for EV mandates. It's a little bit of a change from a policy we've heard from her before. Do your voters in North Dakota believe the flip-flop?
Well, clearly it's a flip-flop, and obviously she is going to continue to pursue the Green New Deal. She's built her whole career on it. For her to say 60 days out from an election that, oh, now it's all going to be different is just not credible. If you look at her, she's a California Democrat, comes out of the whole Green New Deal philosophy that, is very strong there. So she's got a track record of it even before she got to the Senate. Look at her track record in the Senate. She voted for zero emission vehicles. And not just her record in the Senate, which, by the way, along with Bernie Sanders, was the most liberal voting record of any senator. Then look at the Biden-Harris administration, where they now want a CAFE standard for miles per gallon of more than 65 miles a gallon, by about 2030, which again, all these things go in terms of her action. Her record over many years in all these different capacities has been exactly that, to create these Green New Deal mandates and the use of fossil fuels and promote electric vehicles or anything else. But what we're seeing is that doesn't work. We've got to produce more electricity, not less. And so we need that energy source that we have, whether it's oil, gas, coal, all these different things to create that base load to meet the electricity demands of the future.
Well,
but yeah, no question, she's
Senator,
going to continue to pursue the Green New Deal.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because President Trump also highlighted the fact that whatever issues we have around AI as we move forward, if he were president, he would want to be number one in the United States of America, leading the way. We need energy to be able to do that. So this isn't just about the gas tank or heating your home anymore. It's got bigger implications. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. Senator John Hoeven, thank you.
Yep, thanks, Jackie.